The other day I had a client say, Cheryl, I can't get through the easy videos. I feel like I need to go back to week 1. I feel so overwhelmed. On the other hand, I had a client say, well, I'm not stressed. I know I'm not stressed, but I can't lose any weight. What's a common thread in both of those clients? There is a thread, and that thread is your capacity. You see, stress is not your schedule. Stress is not what other people do. It's not the demands put on you by family members or employer or employees. Stress is all about your capacity. And when your capacity is itty bitty, it doesn't take much before you feel like you're juggling and struggling and you feel pressure. That one's pretty easy to notice. But what a lot of people don't realize is that when your brain and your body feel overwhelmed, then what happens is cortisol shoots up, and when your cortisol shoots up, your glutathione drops, your progesterone drops, now you're estrogen dominant, you burn through your calcium, you burn through vitamin B and C, and what happens? You're taking more supplements, more hormone replacement therapy, you can't sleep, you begin to feel like you're aging and old and you can't hold it together, and then you get sick. And so then you take some antibiotics and it's just a vicious soup mess. And all because capacity was too small. So what do we do to build capacity? I want to tell you 2 stories. One, Forrest and I decided for our anniversary not too long ago that we were going to learn all about photography, get a new camera, learn about how to store all of our pictures and organize them and do Photoshop and all these cool things. Well, about 2 hours into the first class, I was like, tilt. Clearly, I didn't have much capacity. I could tell I was losing it. I couldn't remember what the instructor was saying. I had a headache. Now, of course, it didn't help that it was at my worst time of day, evenings. But here's the point. I was beginning to feel stupid, overwhelmed, and stressed. It interfered with my sleep that night, and yet this was something I really wanted to do. So what was the problem? I was trying to pressure me into thinking I could be this good when I was just beginning. And you know what that's all about? Baby steps. And so when you desire to increase your capacity and really embrace this idea of easy, it does require time for learning. So one of the things I did in between our classes is I started watching some videos on YouTube on how to do some of the things he talked about in class. And it was like, oh yeah, I do remember that, and I do remember that. And then I did some homework, some assignments, and it's like, well, I can bring in pictures and I can organize them and I can do some basic editing. I'm learning. See, I was able to see my progress, acknowledge it, and when it was too much, take a break. So here's 2 things I want you to get out of today. Yes, I still have another story, but here's what I want you to get out of this. If you've lived a life of stress with no margin and small capacity, it takes time to change that. It also requires a little pocket of time, sometime in your week, to watch this 10-minute video called Easy. And when that's not a possibility, your schedule is way too tight. Because I'm discovering that if I want to learn something and add a skill or capacity to my life, it requires a pocket of learning time where I'm choosing to learn and I don't have to be perfect. It's not a performance. It's an opportunity to discover and learn because it matters to me. So as I was talking to the first person, I'm just so overwhelmed. I can't even get to the video on Easy. I feel so on and on and on. I said, wait, the video isn't the issue. The lesson isn't the issue. The fact that you have no idea where to put 10 to 15 minutes per week into your schedule, that's the problem. So what we talked about was bookending her day. And this person said, well, I don't have a schedule. I get up when I want to, I go to bed when I want to, and I just get done whatever I can during the day. Well, no wonder you have no clue where to put your pocket of time for learning and discovering. So what we talked about is a principle that makes such a big difference, and that's learning to bookend your day. And it starts with your evening routine, determines how you rest, which then helps you with your morning routine. If you try to do both at the same time, it's too hard. You'll quit and go, doesn't work for me. But learning to discover an evening routine. We did it with our children. It was called their bedtime routine. So what's yours? I'm going to share what works for me. It could be different for you. So for me, I start turning off technology around 7:30 at night. I like to relax. I like to read. I might take a bath. I just start slowing down. So when I was doing the photography class from 6 to 9, that was interfering with one of my bookends. Now, I relax my brain by saying it's once every week or two. It's not every night. I still have my evening routine, but I started adjusting what I did coming into that 6 o'clock time frame and what I did the next day, because I know how important those bookends are. So identify an evening routine for you and make sure it's about 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. And if you want to start sleeping better, remember, the hours before midnight are worth twice the hours after midnight. Being in bed before 11, well, that's really important because about 11, your body gets a second wind. So in bed by 10, that's great. For me, it's about 9 o'clock because I'm an early bird, not a night owl. So check out that bookend at night. And if you really want to understand bookends, you've got a great resource on the Easy site, More Than Enough. More than enough time, money, and relationships. It's on your Easy website. And you know what? Really learn how to set a bookend at night and a bookend in the morning. Because once you understand when your day ends and when it starts, then everything else fits in between. And as you learn how to chunk things down so that you can find, I can do that. And you find the next most useful step, which is easy because you got out of your survival into your thinking, planning, and executing part of your brain. All of a sudden, everything can change. So let's go back to these two clients. This woman said, I'm actually hearing this for the first time. It's actually making sense. Creating a flow to my day, I can put in a 10-minute video. It's when there is no flow to my day and it's overwhelming me that I feel like I can't. She had an aha. She owns it. She's making changes. This woman who said, why can't I lose weight? I'm doing this and this and this and this. I'm exercising. But you know what? Once again, if there is belly fat that you can't lose, you can't out-exercise a poor diet. You can't digest a bad diet without some enzymes or even a perfect diet. And if you don't have capacity and the cortisol switch gets flipped, then everything else follows just like dominoes. So if you're dealing with weight, if you can't sleep, you're dealing with belly fat, brain fog, fatigue, pain, all of that is a sign of stress, inflammation, and small capacity. So over this series, we're going to talk about what you can do to reduce the stress, increase your capacity and your margin. So what used to bother you when your capacity was way down here, you know what? When your capacity is like this, it's just not a problem. You don't trigger the stress switch. That, my friends, is worth everything. That's what Easy is all about. So take some time this week and look at the More Than Enough webinar. Learn how to bookend your day, because I can tell you that no matter what's going on, these bookends matter in my life, and they actually allow me to get more done during the day, sleep better at night, and feel my very best. Those bookends, they're pretty precious.